Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott Reads Comics. Today I'd like to cover another one of my bespoke graphic novels that my wife Emma, who's a bookmaker, made for me as a recent birthday present from last year. This fantastic themed John Byrne collection, which I put together by slowly collecting these books from dollar bins over the past year and a half or so. I made color photocopies of some of my favorite covers of books that are in the collection. So this is an Avengers West Coast number 49 cover that shows up in this collection. And I love covers like this where a number of things are happening. The return of the Great Lakes Avengers, the mystery of the Vision, the possession of the Scarlet Witch, the agony of Wonder Man, the defeat of Captain America, the peril of Dr. Pym. Face it, true believer, this one has it all. So these great segmented covers like this aren't done all the time, but when they show up, they're very cool. And I don't think we really see that anymore in modern comics. Love the corner box here featuring Hawkeye, Mockingbird, and the headshots of the Great Lakes Avengers. Very cool. And the back cover that I did was one of my favorite issues of John Byrne's Alpha Flight Run number 5, which featured Puck. And during his convalescence from his injuries sustained in the attack on him by Marina, which I believe occurred in Alpha Flight number 2. So let's dig in. This is an eclectic collection of John Byrne material. It's in alphabetical order, so we start with Alpha Flight number 5. And I'm just going to sort of page through and give some things that share some things that popped in mind. I have a strong, ambivalent feeling about John Byrne's Alpha Flight. I haven't really covered it much on the show. I want to do a couple of issues in depth at some point. But I feel like reading through John Byrne's 28 issues of Alpha Flight, he really didn't know what to do with the team. And that is kind of backed up in interviews with him. He didn't have a strong emotional connection really to the characters. It's a testament to his genius how good it is knowing that he really didn't care very much about these characters, that they were really only created to survive a fight with the X-Men, I believe. And so it's kind of a non-team, and not even in the sense that the Defenders were a non-team. Like, he spent the entire 28 issues deconstructing the team. They were never really together very much. One of the main times they were together was the death of their leader, Guardian, which was gut-wrenching in issue 12. To me, what was the point, ultimately? And it's not to say that the Bill Mantlo run was great. It wasn't. It was problematic as well. The art was incredibly uneven. Following John Byrne for any artist is a really tall order. But this Byrne run, the first 28 issues, while there is magic in it, it just left me disappointed because I wanted them to be a super team, and they never really got to be a super team. That's my sort of gut reaction when I think of Alpha Flight and reread these old issues. This solo issue with Puck is really solid. Byrne is obviously doing 2 or 3 books a month, and you can tell with this art. It's not his sharpest, most high-quality art. He's doing pencils and inks, and they're obviously quick. But it's still brilliant, fluid, awesome superhero action. And I loved Puck as a kid. Just a tremendous character with a lot of potential that I think was later ruined or wasted by the whole supernatural angle to his origin. Didn't like that at all, not one bit. So yeah, very cool. Puck sluicing around, uncovering a drug ring. And we have a backup story with Shaman getting into his background. Michael Two Youngman with a short haircut when he was a doctor before he became a mystic. Love this promo by Marie Severin for Assistant Editor's Month. Very cool. And a cool house ad for the Defenders. I think we've talked about this one before. Nice artwork there. And a neat ad for Star Frontiers. Love that game as a kid from TSR. Okay, this is some later John Byrne from his Amazing Avengers West Coast run. This is number 49. And Yeah, great splash page here. This is Byrne. He's listed as writer-artist here. So yeah, some of these issues I think were inked by Mike Mocklin, but not this one. And this one just shows a more polished, I think, tighter effort than what we just saw a few years earlier from Alpha Flight number 5. Wonder Man with an unfortunate mullet. But I do like this Wonder Man costume. Of his non-safari jacket costumes, I like this one best, I think. And I do dig this take on Hank Pym, the Dr. Pym superhero persona that he adopted. And I dug his like red fatigues, his uniform that he was wearing. Very cool that he could shrink people and objects down at will just by summoning Pym particles. Awesome here. Byrne, just his She-Hulk is just gorgeous. And there are a few who draw better Captain America, my goodness. And She-Hulk is under control here, and Cap's doing his best to get out of the way. Here's our transformed Vision. Very interesting, that storyline. Here's where the Scarlet Witch gets possessed out of her mind. And you really, this storyline where she does go out of her mind really gives you a sense of how powerful she could be or was going to become. Especially in light of those boys she's depicted in the Marvel movies. Some cool Chaykin artwork there from the Nick Fury Wolverine Scorpio connection. I love the Great Lakes Avengers. Other people might not think they think they're silly, but I do. I love them. Flatman. Marvel had a dearth of stretching characters. He was cool. Big Bertha was cool. Dinosaur. This is pretty awesome here. She-Hulk fighting Big Bertha. Very cool. Doorman. Mr. Immortal. Just a visually very fun, cool group of characters. And of course, oh, that's a cool shot of She-Hulk knocking Bertha off of her. But then she comes to her senses. And Mr. Immortal's going to spring back up probably next issue. Oh yeah, this is a little preview of that awesome cover when Byrne brings the original Human Torch back, the android. I kind of double dipped in this collection. Here's another issue of Avengers West Coast. I couldn't resist putting this one in because this cover has been redone by Byrne a number of times, and here he does it again. This classic cover from Kirby Fantastic Four. Great splash page. Look at that Mole Man. This one might have Mike Mocklin inks here. Inked by Paul Ryan. Boy, I really like this combination of Byrne and Ryan. Look at this amazing two-page spread here that covers the bottom of pages 2 and 3. Very cool. The Mole Man's monster. And great here, Wonder Man has his hair cut. The mullet's gone. That's pretty awesome. And boy, Byrne does a nice job with him in this run. He just is great. He's a great character. There's a scene, not in this issue, when U.S. Agent's mouthing off and Wonder Man just totally puts him in his place because he's just, U.S. Agent isn't even close to being in Wonder Man's power class. It's very cool. This is a great shot of what Iron Man's souped-up armor can do here, lifting the Mole Man's beast literally off the ground. Pretty crazy. And there's U.S. Agent there. He's good in the series. He's just kind of a creep. You don't really like him very much. You're probably not meant to. So, yeah, there's the Wonder Man interacting with the new Human Torch. And this origin now, the whole Vision origin is now thrown into chaos with the arrival of the Human Torch, because the original Human Torch, because Vision was supposed to have his body. So, yeah, this is an Acts of Vengeance crossover, which I largely dug Acts of Vengeance. I thought it was a neat idea. Very cool use of the old classic Marvel monsters, trashing the Quinjet. Byrne he can draw anything. There's nothing John Byrne can't draw. And he shows it every time he puts together one of these issues with all these disparate elements, tech and dinosaurs and monsters and superheroes. He's just masterful. And I really, really like these Paul Ryan inks. Rest in peace, Paul Ryan. Very cool here. U.S. agent using his sky cycle as a weapon. Iron Man bailing him out. Awesome shot of Wonder Man here, displaying his power. Uniform's all torn off. So Mole Man keeps zapping him. Great sequence of panels here, and Wonder Man just keeps taking it to show that he's not a threat. So convinced, he calls his monsters back. Great shot of the monster descending into the depths. Very cool. Yeah, nice. Oh, love this house ad for this. I got to cover this on the show at some point. This four-part countdown series within a series for Hulk by Peter David, Jeff Purvis, and Marie Severin. Yeah, really, Jeff Purvis, not a long career in comics, but certainly an impactful one with his run on Hulk. Great subscription ad with Mark Silvestri. And here's a classic. So like I said, going in alphabetical order, probably as an ex-librarian, I probably should have placed Avengers West Coast after Avengers, but oh well. Yeah, I was happy to find this one in the dollar bin. Very cool. This is Byrne and D Hands on the ink. So a bunch of people pitched in on the inks on this one. Byrne would have been doing X-Men at the same time that this was coming out, so he was, again, spreading himself a little thin. But the art in here really doesn't show, it's no worse for the wear. It's awesome. An awesome fight between the Absorbing Man and the Avengers. This is part 2 of the fight. Very cool. In the previous issue, really, Absorbing Man just wanted to get out of the country and leave the whole supervillain biz behind, but he gets caught up again, and the Avengers engage him, and he has no choice but to fight. It's kind of a little bit tragic. But you can find, that's another thing that's, I sort of buried the lead. You can find these great old Avengers Byrne issues in dollar bins if you look, if you're just diligent enough, you will run into them. Now this is not in mint condition, but it's certainly a wonderful reading copy. And those are, in my mind, the best finds when you're looking in the dollar bin. Great here is the Beast is kind of strutting his stuff a little bit, twirling the Absorbing Man around when suddenly Absorbing Man absorbs Beast powers, which is very cool. And then Captain America hits him with his shield. Cap? Yes, Beast. Just what is your shield made of anyway? A top secret super strong alloy. Why? Just curious. I always like to know what I'm fighting. Very awesome. Absorbing Man absorbs Cap's shield. Ms. Marvel, just all the brass in the world, not to be cowed, comes over and engages him right away. Very cool. Here he's giving the Avengers all they can take. And Iron Man's going to engage him one-on-one. This woman he had kidnapped in the previous issue, although she develops a weird attachment to him. And here he shatters Iron Man's chest piece, which is cool. Oh, and then he grabs her. He calls her Chippy. Very cool. Damn their eyes. Great sequence here. That might be Klaus Janson inks on this page. Not a bad combo of Klaus Janson and John Byrne. And here he pushes her out of harm's way, engages the Vision, and unexpectedly absorbs his intangibility power, not knowing how to control it. He just winds up in the water. He sees his ship going out to sea. He wants to catch it. He absorbs the properties of the water and is displaced. Oh, love these classic Byrne heads for the Avengers here. These would show up obviously in the corner boxes of some issues. Here we just have the iconic Vision in the corner box of this issue. I think maybe these would start showing up subsequent to this. Maybe Byrne did them during this run. One of my single favorite issues of this Byrne run of Avengers, the Hawkeye solo story. And this is kind of another one of those, a variation on one of those covers that shows a bunch of different scenes. Not segmented like our Avengers 49 cover was. Let me dig that right out here. Yeah, not really artificially segmented, but they just have the central figure of Hawkeye and then the side captions. What strange new problems plague the Scarlet Witch and the Vision? Where does destiny take Captain America and the Falcon? Why must Thor leave the Avengers? When will the government stop harassing our heroes? There's Gyrick. Who is the surprise supervillain Hawkeye battles alone? This one's got all the answers. And there's our wonderful corner piece, Byrne headpiece there with the current lineup. I love this 7-person lineup. It wasn't together for too long, this particular lineup, but it's a fun one with the Falcon there. And this is Dan Green inks here on Byrne pencils. Very cool. You wouldn't think of Dan Green and John Byrne, but I think they teamed up on Team Up as well. But that might have been Dave Hunt. I do confuse them from time to time. Just a great shot of Thor flying away here, sequence of him flying away. Falcon shows up for his first official day as an Avenger. Hawkeye is bitter because Falcon was placed on the team due to a quota issue. That was part of the storyline. And Hawkeye got left out, so he's bummed out. I love Wonder Man and the safari jacket. Love it. That's if you want to start an internet flame war, just go on and post how much you love or how much you hate Wonder Man safari jacket outfit, and you will have no shortage of opinions on either side. I love it. Great panel here featuring a shrunken down Yellow Jacket flying away. Very awesome, very awesome. Here, Hawkeye's kind of in his rundown little apartment. He sees he can get another job. I love the die-cast metal Shogun Warrior, mini Shogun Warrior line. These were all so cool. What a great line of toys this was. I had a number of these. Not all of them, but a number of them. And my brother and I each had a full-sized Shogun Warrior back in the day. Pretty great. We were lucky. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Okay. Continuing on here. Hawkeye gets the job. And on one of his first nights, quick shot panel here showing him looking at a adult magazine, and then there's an alarm. And so this is not a normal thing. And then we see Deathbird, who originally appeared in Ms. Marvel, shows up, and she is really a stiff challenge for someone with Hawkeye, who has no powers. But he is always game, always willing to get in there. And this is a great fight sequence from Byrne and Dan Green. Very cool. Look at that. Great. Love this action scenes. Love Hawkeye's close combat training coming back to help him here. Yeah. Love this stop balloon here. That stunned her, like hitting a dog across the nose with a rolled up paper. But she won't stay stunned for long. Gave me time to reach my bow, though. So here she paralyzes his shoulder, so she can't fire his bow, or he can't fire his bow. Great panels of him avoiding narrowly her energy lances. He realizes he's still a marksman no matter what, so he can fling his arrows. And turns the lights out. Cool panel. Love the use of color there. And in the darkness, he gets the drop and captures her. And after she's captured, kisses her at the end. Bit of panache there. Maybe a little sketchy, but fun at the time. Yeah. And I came across a group of these, I think from the same dollar bin buy. I think I got these 3 issues. the same day. So I couldn't resist throwing them all in this collection just because they're so cool. And it was a Byrne themed collection. So we have our same team here, same creative team, John Byrne and Dan Green. And this is cool. We have this weird, menacing stone golem with this tech on its back showing up. And this was a really neat story with a cool twist at the end. I thought it was very creative at the time. What a cool, like you wouldn't associate this creature with any character really in the Marvel Universe. Great recap of some Avengers history here. The Avengers are kind of on trial for being a menace. Gyrick wants to get them shut down. And meanwhile, this creature is rampaging in New York. Gyrick's making his case against them. Cap has had it. He's heard enough. He's going to pull some strings here. I love Tarzan. Oh, and the Super 7, the Freedom Force was so great. I love this cartoon. Kind of obscure. This little martial arts kid could actually turn into a big, like, Shogun warrior like Mecha, like maybe 10, 15 feet tall. He was really cool. There aren't that many episodes of this cartoon, but it's one of my favorite from when I was a kid. Yeah, cartoons were so much better then. Yeah. So there's a menace afoot, and Daredevil's going to try to help the Avengers out. So he shows up. Great battle sequences here in these panels. I love Ms. Marvel on this team. Makes what happened to her in issue 200 such a tragedy. This great panel here, awesome use of teamwork with the Beast, alley-ooping the elemental creature toward the Vision, and Vision showing off the fact that he is a powerhouse. Just punches him back. And cool panels with the Scarlet Witch using her powers. And then Vision and Iron Man together pulverizing it. So is the threat over? Has it been ended? No, because suddenly they're turned to stone. And it turns out that weird elemental creature was actually the well-known villain, the Grey Gargoyle from Thor. He returned from space, his sojourn in space. So this was actually the Grey Gargoyle. Very cool reveal at the end. Back to the Stone Age. So cool. All right, so now we're off Avengers to another team, Champions. Love the Champions. And this features John Byrne and Bob Layton. And Byrne has made some disparaging comments in interviews about Bob Layton's inks on his pencils. I love them. I think they're fantastic. I think he makes Byrne's pencils look awesome and polished. And I would much prefer Bob Layton inking John Byrne than John Byrne inking John Byrne. And I love both of those results, but I prefer the Layton inks. So this is a great, Byrne did 3 or 4 issues of Champions before it was canceled, and it was a neat, sort of weird team. I love that Black Goliath was showing up in this issue. He's a favorite character of mine. Cool use of the Stranger. He's always an interesting menace when he shows up. Sometimes can be a help, but usually he's a menace. Great letter from Kurt Busiek in the letters pages here. Longtime Avengers scribe and comic writer, great Kurt Busiek. I'll just read a little bit. Dear Peebles, Champs number 9 was pretty good. I can't pass judgment until the story finishes, but it looks to be a good one. Bob, I categorize your art along with early Dave Cockrum. It's quite good in most places, but it has a way to go. Of course, seeing that you come from the John Buscema Art School, I have a hunch you'll be doing just fine. And then he goes on to talk about each of the characters on the team. Finally, he says, Ghost Rider, get rid of him. Get rid of him too. He makes an uninteresting group member. All right, Kurt. Great to see those letters from current storied creators like Kurt Busiek, who was a letter hack. Very neat. That's cool. Stranger there, grabbing the angel. He could shift sizes. Oh, this next issue is so cool. I have it in uncollected. I have this one. It's really great. Also Byrne. Excuse me. Great Camo Thorn, one of the Elders of the Universe. Yeah. Oh, this is cool. A issue of the Doomsday Squad reprint that was reprints John Byrne's earliest comic work, Doomsday +1, or some of his earlier comics work. So this is rough John Byrne, but it's fun. It's fun to kind of see where he came from in this cool post-apocalyptic sci-fi. I think this is the first issue too. Yeah, it's #1. Found this in the dollar bin. Very cool. Yeah. This Fantagraphics got a hold of these and got permission, got the rights and reprinted them, and it was nice to see them. And I like the paper quality on these reprints. Very cool. They revived this caveman on ice. Neat crew of post-apocalyptic survivors here, with the caveman and the scientist and the other members of the crew. And this Dalgota backup story is not John Byrne, but it's only a few pages. Interesting artwork. And here we have one of my favorites from the John Byrne Fantastic Four run, where they go against Ego, the Living Planet. And I love stories that start in media res, like in the middle. This one does just that. It's just such an iconic splash page with the Thing literally marching through the insides of Ego, the Living Planet. And John Byrne, this is an example of him penciling and inking, and everything is really tight and perfectly done. Just this was early in his run on Fantastic Four, and he was 100% in, and you could tell. Really great. And then it starts in the middle, and then it gets revealed what's going on. And what a villain Ego is. Very cool. Very awesome addition to the Marvel Universe from Kirby and Stan. So the FF have to stop him. He can spawn these beings who will fight for him. We have a quick interlude back on Earth with Frankie Ray, who's going to become eventually a Human Torch of her own, and then Nova, Herald of Galactus. Back to our main story. Great sequences here with the FF traveling on Ego's surface, and then inside him, and realizing they have to get to his core to stop him. But as they move in towards his core, the pressure and the conditions become too overwhelming, and soon only the Thing can continue on. And here we are back to the present from our splash page. And the Thing is carrying this device which is going to stop Ego once and for all, hopefully. So we get a sequence here telling how Ego got to be here, some of his history. Thor was involved. Awesome panels here depicting the Ego being boosted by the rocket into the sun. And the Thing, how's he going to get out? Oh, great. Great Hulk ad for Hostess Pies. I'm not sure who did this. It's definitely not Sal. Could be Rich Buckler, actually. It looks like a Rich Buckler Hulk. And yeah, he was... the Fumi Goonies was in this one. Some kind of weird paramilitaries. I may have talked about this one in a previous episode. But the FF rescues the Thing, which is great. Fantastic Four fan page. No big names on this one. We'll move on. This was a reprint of Byrne's Marvel Team Up run. One of my favorites in that. Yeah, Spidey and the Daughters of the Dragon. So these are inked by Dave Hunt, who also provides the colors. But this is a reprint title from actually 1987, and yeah, that Marvel team up was actually years earlier in the 70s. You can tell by the hair, obviously. But this is reprinted on that flexographic process. So the color doesn't quite work in some of the sequences here. Still nice though. Very awesome early John Byrne work. This is not peak Byrne, but you can definitely see everything coming together. And Spider-Man against the super martial artist is always fun. Always fun. I love that crackle around those fists. So cool. As Iron Fist needs to take his power back from this guy, Steel Serpent. And he does. And Steel Serpent is gone at the end. And back on Kunlun. Lei Kung the Thunderer. Bummed out, that was his son. This one has a backup story by James Fry, with James Fry pencils and Mark McKenna inks. Pretty good, actually. Spider-Man and the Thing. I don't know if the Thing is mind controlled here. I guess he is. I'm not sure. Just a fun little 6-pager. This was an original Marvel team up I found in the dollar bins. Very beat up, but a good reading copy. Again, John Byrne and Dave Hunt. This is Spider-Man and Warlock. This one is also collected in issue number 5 of the Warlock Baxter reprints, or at least part of the story is. Those reprints, while I love them, I love that Baxter paper, they're chopped together and thrown together, so they can be a little confusing from time to time. The different original locations of the stories that they threw in there. Again, the Stranger shows up. Got him twice in this collection. Very cool. And Byrne draws a very impressive Stranger. And we also have another Elder of the Universe in this one, the Gardener. And there he is. Very, very biblical looking there. Nice effect there. Explosion, starburst effect. We had our letters page in the middle of the story. No big names on this. Well, here's a letter from Fred Hembeck, which is pretty funny. That's cool. As a kid, I ignored Fred Hembeck, and man, I was really, I shouldn't have, because he's an awesomely talented cartoonist. Stranger as Warlock prisoner, and Spider-Man, what can he do to stop this cosmic entity? But he's got the Gardener working for him too. So the Gardener controls this whole planet. And between the three of them, they manage to drive the Stranger off. And one of the soul gems is so casually discarded. This is a very modern piece of John Byrne that I wanted to include in here, just to kind of juxtapose it against a lot of the older stuff that's in here. And this is actually a lot of fun. I love this series, Marvel The Lost Generation, that he did with Roger Stern and Al Milgrom inking him. And not a fan of Al Milgrom's pencils. I've said it before on here. I am a huge fan of his inks. Great inker. And this is very cool stuff. This is from the late 90s, 1998, I think. Just really cool. Still in the Marvel Universe, but in the sort of like 10 years before the Fantastic Four, whatever fluid time you want to set the Fantastic Four in, depending on when you started reading comics, since no characters really age. But really nice stuff here. Again, this is not peak Byrne. This is post-peak Byrne, but it's still, he's just such a great storyteller. And his figure work is still super solid. And man, he can create new characters and they just look awesome. He created dozens of new characters for this 12-issue limited series. It's not easy to find this series in dollar bins because it wasn't printed in the quantities that some of the older books were. If you come across them, they're fun. They're a lot of fun. You can read them forwards or backwards. And by that I mean issue 1 is actually issue 12, and then when you get to issue 12, it's actually issue 1. And So it kind of hurts your head if you think about it, but it works when you're reading it, and you can read them 12 down to 1 or 1 up to 12 if you want to. Pretty neat stuff. A lot of great stuff on the page here. A lot of great character creation. And here's that early Fantastic Four. That's young Ben Grimm, young Reed Richards before the Grey Temples. Yeah, this is just some vintage superhero work on this one. A lot of scrawls in this series, which is very cool. Yeah, there's Yeti. He's a great character that was originally, I think, an Inhuman. Lost Generation, worth checking out. Marvel 2-in-1 had to include one of these. I'm going to cover the Project Pegasus saga in detail on the show at some point, but hey, I thought I would throw this in here because, man, I love this story. And I love, did I mention I love Black Goliath? I do. I love the character of Bill Foster. I love Black Goliath. I love when he became Giant Man. So yeah, and this is a very cool costume as well. So this project, great recap of his career. Yeah, so this whole Project Pegasus saga and then the later issues of Marvel 2-in-1 featuring Bill Foster are very cool. Well worth pursuing. And I'm going to share them on the show, hopefully at some point. Oh, big Thundra fan. Love Thundra, love the Lady Grapplers, Titania, the original Titania. Awesome stuff. The ever-loving Blue-Eyed Letters page. Quick scan. No famous names peek out to me. Oh, cool Spider-Woman house ad here. I will again renew my call for a collection of house ads. Please print them. I will buy them. Very nice. New clothes. A great tragic foe here, but superbly drawn by Byrne here. Love that aura around him. Very cool Giant Man action. And that's awesome. He's caught in that Spencer field. Oh yeah, neat ad for Warriors of the Shadow Realm. Speaking of Giant Man, he's featured here. Very cool. Oh yeah. Cool recap of the tortured career of Wundar, who will become something else by the time the Project Pegasus saga is over. I threw in one DC book in this collection. So this is New Gods when Byrne took it over with Bob Wycheck inking him. And then this title would, I think after this issue, 13, become Jack Kirby's Fourth World, also by Byrne. And then that title would later, I think, be taken over and become Orion and done by Walt Simonson. So they were doing Kirby's classic characters some pretty good justice here. And this is obviously newer Byrne, newer production techniques, slick paper, which I'm not a fan of. But I wanted to throw just a little bit of Byrne DC in, and I'm not the biggest Superman fan in the world, so I thought this would be a better specimen to include. Great full page, almost full page with Orion. Love Mr. Miracle and Big Barda. And this cool flashback here showing how they got into this story. And while I'm not going to get into the minutia of that, oh man, this Big Barda is just gorgeous. Byrne really knows how to draw very fit and super powerful female characters. He's just great at it. And he was using I think he was using more open panels like this one here in this later period. And this is, I guess you could argue, is a fully open page of them in this sort of nether region. So very well done here by John Byrne to do this full page, telling a lot of story with a full page, while also not having to slavishly put in any backgrounds, which, it's a time saver for a professional like that. Tachyon, cool newer character for the New Gods. So yeah, that was it. And then finally, we finish up with a True Believers copy of Uncanny X-Men number 141, the first days of future past. And I might make the argument that this is the greatest single John Byrne issue that I've ever read. This issue, this 141, it's almost perfect in every way in terms of the art. The story is fantastic as well. The Terry Austin inks are incredible. I also like 140 with the Wendigo. But yeah, this is pretty outstanding. And if you're a comic fan, you know this story. It's so important. It's the face that launched 1,000 ships. It's been done and redone a number of times. And I think New Warriors, Fabian Nishiza, did a very cool take on this that might be worth covering one day. But this sort of whole going into the past to change the future thing is just such a classic trope. And when it's combined with the superhero genre and the X-Men and creators of this talent level, it's a timeless story, to put a pun to it. A timeless story of time travel. But yeah, this is Byrne, and this is the end. I mean, we're 2 issues away from him leaving the title and starting Fantastic Four, so it's sad to think about that. But man, they went out with some bangers. Not the biggest fan of 143, the Kitty solo story. It's fun, but no, never been a huge Kitty Pryde fan. But 141 and 142, Days of Future Past, you can't really get much better than that. This sequence is incredible here. Franklin Richards dying. Just incredible. Look at the fastball special of Old Man Logan here. Really awesome panel here with Colossus just plowing into this building to collapse it on these Sentinels. These True Believers, when Marvel was putting them out, they were the best deal going. They really were. Yeah, so you'll even come across these. They're not very old, but you'll come across them in dollar bins from time to time. And we get the original cover, which is cool. So, yeah, that's my bespoke John Byrne collection, an eclectic collection of Byrne issues that I've gotten from dollar bins for the most part. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe and tell your friends. And I'll bring you more later on Scott Reads Comics. Thanks for watching.